Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you, and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be, I am not okay with this.
This is what we do every single second and 20-second. Why are you not okay with this?
I'm not okay with it. I don't want to do it. I refuse. Also, that's also the name of the show, but I do have problems doing this as well.
Yes, the show is Netflix's 2020 show, I Am Not Okay With This. A rather short show, 7 episodes, about 20 minutes each.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it got canceled because there was this tiny little thing that happened in 2020.
The world stopped and died, and for some reason, we continue to persist on after it.
No, there was a global pandemic.
That's what I said.
But yes, the show is I'm Not Okay With This. A show that pitches itself as a superpowered teen drama.
Okay.
I didn't get much of that from either of these episodes, honestly.
I can see the beginnings of it.
I think this show is actually like a AU for Carrie.
I could kind of see that, yeah. It personally gives me big Netflix fuck the end of the world vibes. It was another show from Netflix that was stylistically very similar, in my opinion. I don't know, they just feel like they belong in like the same show block, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like they'd be back to back on Thursday nights on NBC.
NBC would run neither of these shows, but yes.
Or ABC Family, actually.
I don't think ABC Family would run either of these shows either, but yes.
Yeah, but you get the picture. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Proceed.
So there is a trope in movies and TV shows called the Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yes.
We're all familiar with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yes.
I think for me, the most recognizable Manic Pixie Dream Girl is Ramona Flowers.
Sure.
But it's a very, known...
Insert Zooey Deschanel character here.
Yeah, it's a very known concept.
Yeah.
What is the male version, the guy version of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl?
Manic Pixie Dream Girl. It's not gendered.
Okay, cool.
I don't actually know, but I'm making the claim it's not gendered because it'd be very anti-Manic Pixie Dream Girl to make it gendered.
You're not wrong. Because I think my first encounter of this character concept as a guy was Nobody from Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah.
Or Patrick, yeah. But also this show has one.
It does have its own, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Because, he gave off such hard Patrick vibes, and I was like...
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Patrick in the movie was played by Eliza Miller and has tainted the role forever.
Ezra Miller.
There's
probably a perfectly fine Eliza Miller out there somewhere, and I assume they're lovely. Unlike Ezra.
Before we actually get into the show, I do want to, Ezra Miller for a second, because, there was a hot second where I was like, Ezra Miller, fucking hero. They were driving through southern United States, loaded up with guns and calling out the KKK,
Yeah, it's nice.
Yes. And then they went to Hawaii and domestically abused people and battered waitresses and...
Yeah.
Basically became a shitlord.
Mm-hmm.
When you were waving guns around and threatening the KKK, you were cool. When you start beating people for no reason, less cool.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Unless they were KKK, then you would have been more cool. Anyways, this show has nothing to do with Ezra Miller. Just, he played a Manic Pixie Dream Girl once.
Or the KKK. Or Hawaii. Or beating people.
So episode 1 is entitled Dear Diary. And it opens with our lead character walking down the street in a bloody nightgown with dog tags around her neck.
Yep.
And then we just jump cut to her getting off a bus.
School bus, yeah, and a jacket and backpack and all of that. And she is providing a voiceover.
And also we get a song kick in from the Kinks.
Yeah, baby.
I'm Not Like Everyone Else.
I'm not like everybody else.
My bad.
And we start with her voiceover, which is, Dear Diary, go fuck yourself. We get our splash screen that says, I am not okay with this, and then we cut to the bus.
Yeah.
Where the voiceover continues.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, nah, I'm just fucking with you, diary, or whatever. I don't know how these diary things work. They're dumb.
I'm a 17-year-old boring white girl. Nothing special about me. Moved here 2 years ago. Name is Sydney. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The aesthetic of the show is very 90s.
I would agree, yeah, not even late 90s though, early 90s. We're just making it out of the 80s.
Yeah, it's very much late 80s, early 90s. The lockers are the type that, sit in front of the wall. They don't recess in.
Yep.
They have the slanted tops. They got,
Yeah, we can't set stuff on top of them.
Yeah, which really, who designed that?
People that are assholes. Yeah.
That's just a dick move.
Yep. Also, everyone's just like clothing aesthetic is also very dated.
Yeah, when she gets off the bus, the town looks like it's out of the 90s.
Yeah, the high school is like very... Honestly, high school almost feels like 60s or 50s-ish. And I've never seen so much wood paneling in the first episode of a show that wasn't set in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, fair enough. So...
Bad wood paneling, not fancy wood paneling. Fancy wood paneling is different.
We just get narration from Sydney.
Yeah.
And this leads to her sitting in front of the guidance counselor, Miss Capirotti.
Yeah, Capriotti, who the fuck knows?
Who was the one that suggested she start writing a diary to begin with. This is a flashback of her getting the diary.
Yeah, there's a fun moment where we're seeing her in the room with Miss Capriotti, and she's like, she said it'd be good for me, and then we actually hear Miss Capriotti like faint and stuff. It'll be good for you. She promises it'll help with my moods. It might help with your mood.
And when she's saying that, we get a cut to her, like, knocking over a trash can and, like, punching a wall and, like...
breaking pencils, all kinds of stuff.
She has anger issues.
Yep.
And we find out it's because her dad died last spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we cut from Miss Capiretti... Well, she asked Miss Capiretti, can't I just write this on my phone instead?
Yeah, which was Josh just like, oh shit, we're not in the 90s.
Like, I thought this show was set in the past.
I don't blame you, I did as well. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're not. And so she talks to Miss Capriotti, she's just like, can I write on my phone? No.
You'll
But
get
what am I supposed
distracted.
to write about? I don't know, anything, everything. No one's gonna look at it. It's only for you.
Not even me, the guidance counselor. So then we cut to her in sex ed, biology, hard to tell which it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know either. We do see her like chilling out in the bathroom by herself, like the classic, I'm alone, so I sit in the stall, which there are always better places in a school to just hang out by yourself than a bathroom stall, right?
Yes. I've never understood that.
One, it's generally a high traffic area. Two, it doesn't smell pleasant. Guaranteed.
I will say, in like 6th grade, me and a friend used to time our bathroom breaks to line up so we could go in the bathroom and throw the link cable underneath the stall door.
And trade Pokemon?
No, play Yu-Gi-Oh together.
Okay. Wow. What a loser.
Yeah, but like, that was just to get out of class and play Yu-Gi-Oh.
I guess it makes sense.
But I've never like retreated to the bathroom just to like be by myself. Better places to be by yourself at in a school.
Yeah. But when she's in the bathroom, she's like, anyways, here's to a normal high school experience, making fun of Miss Capriotti. Because she just like, I want it to be normal for you. I want you to have a normal high school experience. Whatever, you know, that shit.
Yep. So we cut to the sex ed biology class. And the teacher is giving a lecture about how erections are formed.
Yes, Mr. File.
And he talks about how this is how a male can hold an erection in regards to blood flow.
Yeah.
And then a Mr. Lewis, who we'll later learn is Bradley Lewis, raises his hand.
He looks like a stereotypical jock. He's fairly attractive, but you know he's a jock immediately because he's wearing the Letterman, because he has to be.
Teacher calls on him. He's like, from my experience, erections are much better held by a female. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it's far more successful in the hands of a Homo sapien female.
To be fair, I made a similar joke, but mine was just about masturbation.
Yeah.
And then he made his joke, and I felt like my joke was lesser. But also, my joke didn't, like, exclude homosexuals.
Yeah, true.
Or bisexuals.
Or, you know, actually happen in a classroom surrounded by other people where you can make them uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah, my joke happened in my living room, where it's just me and you.
And it can still make other people uncomfortable.
Did it, though?
No.
My
I expected the joke. I also knew this joke was coming up.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Like, it felt obvious. So
Teacher chides Mr. Lewis.
And Brad, because that's easier to say, we learn his name very quickly. He's like, just talking science. And then him and his friend, bro fist, bro shake, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
And then Brad's friend, who sits diagonally from him and right in front of Sydney, turns to Sydney and goes, what's the matter, Fire Crutch? Wasn't it funny?
No, it wasn't. It's why she didn't laugh, because he's like, what didn't you laugh? Because Brad's joke wasn't that funny. It was amusing, but not extremely. I can understand why people wouldn't laugh at it. And yours definitely wasn't, so fuck off.
But we go from that to Sydney talking about her friend Dina, who sits diagonally in front of Brad in this class. But we cut from this class very quickly to gym class or basketball practice. I think gym class.
Yeah, and Dina's playing basketball as we get a lot of voiceover from Sydney.
Mainly Sydney's talking about how Dina's such a badass, and like in a normal world they would have never been friends, but because they both moved here at roughly the same time, they became friends out of happenstance.
Yeah, and during this entire time we are getting a song from Shirley Ellis called I See It, I Like It, I Want It. And then we're getting a bit more of Sydney and Dina stuff. Like we see them walking down a street and Dina's kind of just dancing around.
And then she makes Sydney dance and they kind of hold hands, and Sydney's narrating about how like she's never had a best friend before.
And that Dina is really like different from her. She's all outgoing, but like when Sydney's with Dina, Dina just makes her feel different.
Yeah, and Sydney also talks about how Dina was there when
her dad died.
When she found out that her dad died, and like was there when she was crying and like was there for her. But yeah, so then they go to an old style like diner where they get milkshakes.
Yep.
And while we're there, Dana tells Sydney that she kind of likes Bradley Lewis and that he may have asked her to homecoming.
And then Sydney's like, wait, and you said yes? Like, what the fuck? And Dina's like, no, I told him to fuck off with his washboard abs and whatever. Of course I said yes. And this entire time we're seeing Sydney just like staring uncomfortably at Dina like, what? No, that seems like a bad choice. What the fuck's wrong with you? Those types of stares?
And then Sydney comes to the realization that like, oh, you guys had sex, didn't you? You gave him your V card. How could you?
Yeah. And Dana's just like, shh, don't tell anyone. Don't be all about it. And like, it's treated much more like a gossip sesh, whereas Sydney seems to be legitimately upset by this.
Mm-hmm. And then Dana's like, what, don't you like anyone? And Sydney's like, I've never really given it any thought. And she's like, well, you should, because then we could make homecoming a double date. And then before Sydney could say anything, that's when Brad shows up.
Yeah.
And he like immediately sits down, makes himself comfortable at the table. And the first thing he asks is if Sydney's mom can get them some free hamburgers because she apparently works at this diner.
And the hamburgers are pretty good here, so he wants some. And Sydney's just like, my mom's not working. Dina's like, you want a hamburger? I can get us one. And she wanders off to buy him a hamburger after a waitress sets down some fries for the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bradley just starts like eating all the fries.
Yeah, the Sydney's fries based on
Yeah.
this. And she's like, she's upset because he's just stealing her food.
Also her friend.
Yeah, and her friend. And honestly, Brad, if you went to high school in America, you know Brad.
Yeah.
You went to high school with a Brad. He's the overbearing jock asshole who for some reason like has no like self-awareness that he is an asshole.
I mean, honestly, at this point, he has yet to come off like an asshole. He's come off kind of douchey, but not necessarily an asshole.
That's fair. He just feels like the kind of person that like is an overbearing douche and has zero self-awareness why people think he's a douche. Yeah, that's him.
Also, at this point, we learned that Dina and Brad aren't technically boyfriend and girlfriend, according to Dina, because Sid does ask. They haven't really put a label on it. But when Brad shows up, he does like immediately wrap his arm around her, call her babe, and like Sid's obviously disgusted by that.
Yeah, so Sydney kind of hyper fixates on Brad, and the chatter in the diner kind of like falls to the wayside. We can barely hear it. It becomes undiscernible, and all we get is Sydney's thoughts about how she wishes he would shut up and go
Just
away.
Stop. Please stop.
And then Brad just starts bleeding from his nose.
Yeah, there's a bit where he's like, Gina's great, why don't we have her smile, whatever. And then the best part is the nosebleed starts just after he says, you gotta try one of these fries, as if he's the one that got them and they've never had them before.
Mm-hmm. And then on her way home, because we cut from this to her walking home by herself, she's narrating that she has almost convinced herself that she's the one that made Brad's nose bleed.
Yeah.
Oh, ha ha ha, imagine that. That's impossible. And then some guy sitting on a porch nearby yells, hey. She stops.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs up to her and he's like, hey, you mind if
he does say her name, but...
Yeah, she says his name in her mind. His name is Stanley Barber.
Well, I was saying he yelled her name to stop her.
Yeah,
he was like,
right.
oh, hey, Sid.
Yep.
So this guy sitting from his porch, he goes out, oh, hey, Sid. And he runs up. She says, hey, back. And we get a voiceover where she's explaining who this character is to us, basically. He's Stanley Barber. He lives just down the street from her, so he is her neighbor. And she's talking about, like, how I normally feel pretty shitty about myself, but Stanley is the master of giving no fucks. He just doesn't care.
Yeah. And he runs up to her, like you said, and he's like, oop, cramp, sorry.
Leg fell asleep, actually, is what he says.
Oh, yeah, leg fell asleep. And he, like, stretches himself out. And he goes, mind if I walk with you?
And she's like, okay.
And then he's not wearing shoes, and he's walking on, like, asphalt. He's like, oof, no shoes. But who needs shoes, right? And then
he asks her if she's into a band called Blood Witch.
No, he doesn't. He says, Blood Witch.
Am I right?
Am I right?
Yeah. She's like, what? And he's like, Blood Witch. You like their music? And she's just like, that's a terrible name. I bet they sound like shit. And he looks legitimately offended, and he's like, oh. And it's like, look, I have them on vinyl and stuff, limited edition stuff. Like, you should give them a listen. Like, we can listen together sometime. That'd be cool.
You could come over, listen to them on vinyl. We could get high.
And then in her voiceover, I've never been high before.
Yeah, and then he's like, he sees her like become a little bit hesitate. Yeah, and he goes, or not. It doesn't matter. And then like she's like, well, she's thinking to herself, and then he's like, you know, we've never really hung out, even though I live right down the street. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, sure, maybe sometime.
Yep.
And that's the end of their interaction because then she's home.
Let me know. Spins around on his foot, his bare foot, does a bow, and puts on his sunglasses and walks back to his house. And as he leaves, he says, what a world we live in, Sydney. I'm sorry, I felt the need to make sure to get some of those important things across because you did mention he has a manic pixie dream girl.
Is he not, though? You say it like you think I'm wrong.
No, he wanders into the scene basically out of nowhere, has no shoes on just because he doesn't like shoes, starts randomly talking about music, is wearing a loose, kind of flowy outfit, which honestly generally fits with the vibe, and just dancing around. He literally skips back to his house. I forgot to mention that. He literally skips back to his house after he turns around, bows, house.
You say he doesn't like shoes. What gives you that impression?
I said assumedly he doesn't like shoes.
No, see, it has nothing to do with him liking shoes or not liking shoes. He was just relaxing, probably high, on the porch of his house when he saw Sydney, the girl he has a crush on, come by, and he's like, shit, I don't have shoes on. Mm-hmm. Too bad for me, and runs up after her.
No, I get that.
It has nothing to do with whether he likes shoes.
I was phrasing it more with the idea of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, because for some fucking reason, in so many things I've seen where it's like, blah, 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 insert Manic Pixie Dream Girl here, there's always, for some fucking reason, a scene where they're not wearing shoes when they should be wearing shoes.
Is that a Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope?
I've seen it way too many times with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope.
Have you? Because
yeah, there's for some reason always a scene where they're not wearing shoes when they should be, and it's weird, man.
Well, I've never clocked it. But that leaves us into Sydney's home, where we find out that she lives with her mother and younger brother and not her father.
I mean, that one was kind of obvious already, but yeah.
Sydney and her mom haven't been getting along lately. If I had to guess, it has something to do with her dad dying, but just a guess.
Yeah. She lets us know, of course, through her vibrant use of voiceover. And
honestly, this show, I don't want to clock the show because I did like it, but this show is terrible about This show, it could be an audio drama. It really could, and you would lose nothing.
You just add the soundscape for sounds of cars and stuff.
Yeah, you lose nothing if it's an audio drama. Wild.
I was thinking about that later in episode 2 when they're in the car.
I did fail to mention when the diary first came up. The diary is actually the entire framing device for the show, it seems, which is why we spend so much time in her head.
Yeah, these are all the voiceover is assumingly what she's writing in the diary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it works in that regard.
Yeah, but when she enters the house, her mom's like, hey, you're home. She's like, nope, I'm an ex-murderer. And,
thanks for leaving the door unlocked so I could axe murder you all. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. Her and her mom get into a bit of a tiff because her mother has been called into work. She works at the diner, like I said, but one of the other people that work there has to...
It's an emergency with their pet.
And she still owes that waitress or worker 2 shifts for covering her when Liam, the younger brother's son, ate too much cheese and apparently had to be hospitalized for it or something.
Maybe not had to be hospitalized, but he ate too much cheese. That's all we know.
I assume... So I had a friend in high school that actually had to be hospitalized because he ate too much cheese. You know him. His dad ran some D&D games.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I know.
Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past this kid having been hospitalized because he ate too much cheese. It happens.
Yeah. But her and her mom get into, like you said, a bit of a tiff because her mom is looking for her stockings that she can't find. And she's just like, oh, I found those in the bottom of the bath. So I threw them in the washer and I guess they ended up in the dryer.
And apparently you're not supposed to dry stockings.
No, they shrink really bad. And also they can tear or you can get runs in them.
See, as a man who has never worn stockings, I was not aware of this.
Also as a man who has never worn stockings, I was aware of this.
I feel like you're calling me out.
I am calling you out.
Why would I know this?
Why wouldn't you know this?
It's a good question. I don't have a good answer. And then her mom's like, can't you ever do anything around here? Because Sydney's complaining about having to watch her brother and make sure he gets food.
And she's like, he's responsible enough.
The crazy thing is, okay, so she made an honest mistake in drying the stocking. Imagine then flipping that around and being like, can you not do anything around here? When she literally just did laundry. You're literally mad because she just did laundry. Yeah, she messed up.
But she still did laundry, yeah.
Yeah,
agreed. Anyways, though, her mother heads off to work, and Sydney heads into the living room where her little brother's sitting drawing something. And she asks if he's done with his homework, because, that's what she was told to do. And he's like, yeah, I already did it. I did it as soon as I got home. What about you? Have you done yours? And she's like, I'll get to it.
And he's like, you gotta work hard, right?
Mom says if you want to get anywhere in life, you gotta work hard.
And she's like, well, I was just gonna coast off your hard work, and maybe one day...
If you're lucky, you can pay for my funeral.
Yep. And then she, asks how his day was, and he's talks about this bully at his school who punched another kid in the face.
And Sid's kind of just half answering. She's like, okay, yeah. And he's like, and I'm devising a plan because I'm pretty sure I'm next.
And his plan is this drawing he's working on of superhero style armor. Mm-hmm. And it has spiked gloves and a chest plate, and he's gonna make it and wear it and then beat up the bully before he can get beat up.
Well, I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to do it before he can get beat up because Sid calls him out on that, basically. She's like, so vengeance. And he was like, yep, pretty much.
I think it's because the kid that got punched is his friend.
Maybe. That could be it, too.
Yeah, Batman's whole quest is vengeance, but it's not because he was personally harmed by Joe Chill.
Okay, true.
You can be out for vengeance for non-personal harm.
Yeah, she does compliment on Mana, and honestly, it's not a bad drawing for a young child whose age I can't tell.
And he's like, yeah, this is Mark 1, so the first draft's always the hardest.
It's really hard to design the first one.
They then go to a nearby convenience store and get hot dogs.
And we've got some more voiceover from Sydney. It's basically just we're not rich. We've never been rich. We've always kind of ended up in shitty places like this. And it's life's like a lottery, Some people are born lucky or born rich. So that whole thing we've all been aware of and hate about about life. Or is that just me?
It feels like you're baiting me because, like, I'm not getting baited.
I'm not trying to bait anyone.
I'm not getting pulled into this conversation. But yeah, so they have hot dogs. They sit on the curb outside the convenience store and eat them.
And a bag of cheese balls. Important things.
A bag of cheese balls. My bad.
Important things.
I don't think anybody in the entire world has called cheese balls an important thing until this moment.
I'm glad to be the first.
And if they have, it's because they were a pregnant woman and needed the cheese balls.
Anyways, though, Liam and Sydney are talking again, and Sydney's just like, hey, you know, if that kid ever punches you, I'll rip his throat out in front of the principal. And he's like, you're weird, you know that, right? And she's like, yeah, I know.
Then we go from this to her in the bathroom at the house, and she's narrating over that she gets weird zits on her thighs. And
yeah.
The whole time she's like trying to pop the zits, she's like, they're not even satisfying to pop, and the sink is dripping in the background, drip, 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 and like it's annoying her.
And
she looks at the sink.
About how she hasn't been able to get rid of them or anything.
Yeah, she's tried everything, acne medicine, soap and water, so on and so forth. She can't stop them from forming. And then she gets fed up with the dripping faucet, looks at the faucet, and yells at it to stop.
And it does. Then she finishes this entire thing where she's been complaining about and goes, I don't know, it's probably just a puberty thing. Immediately after commanding dripping water to stop dripping.
Yep. And then we cut to her in her room, sitting on her bed, messing with an acoustic guitar. And she gets a text from Stan.
Yeah, because we cut to Stan briefly, and we see him turning on Blood Witch. And he's just laying there listening. And his room is literally like...
the whole basement.
Yeah, and it's literally like the 70s. He has the fucking velour couch vintage bullshit. He's got a record player. He sees all kinds of tapes and all kinds of shit. Like, it's just, here's the 70s. Congratulations.
Yeah, he texts her and like makes her listen to Blood Witch. I think he probably texts her a link to them or something.
Yeah, because they end up listening to the same song in this.
Yeah,
bit.
And Blood Witch, they're a vibe. They're like ambient acid rock.
Yeah, they're just a vibe. They're fine.
Yep, Sid vibes to it too because she gets up and dances on her bed while listening to it.
And Stan just listens to it, probably high, and drums out the beat on his chest.
Then we cut to her laying in bed, lights are off, and she says that sometimes she thinks about touching herself while she sleeps, before she sleeps, but she never does. In fact, when she feels like it, she gets up and gets peanut butter because peanut butter helps.
And then we see her sitting on the couch watching something at night, eating from a jar of peanut butter.
And her mom gets home.
Which is just rude. It's family peanut butter.
Not anymore, it's not. It's her peanut butter now.
Apparently.
And she narrates that the later her mom gets home, the more wine she drinks. Which I don't understand this inverse here. Like,
if you have less time, why would you drink more wine?
Yeah.
Like, obviously the argument here is that she's out longer because her day's been harder, so she drinks more wine to cope with a very hard day at work, right? That's the logic there. But,
I think if that's the case, you just upgrade which alcohol.
You just change the alcohol. That's the basic thing, yes. But it's also the argument of, well, I'm not an alcoholic. I only drink wine.
You can be an alcoholic.
I'm aware. I've heard that line before, though.
I know alcoholics that only drink beer, and beer is weaker than wine, so...
But her and her mom are sitting there talking, and Sydney's voiceover is like, as she's continuing, she talks about how neither of them have really talked to each other since her dad killed himself in the basement. And also they have definitely not talked about that at all.
Yeah, so we've now went from knowing he died to knowing it was a suicide in their house that they still live in.
Yeah.
So Sid then talks to her mom. She's like, so I had to go to the counselor today. And her mom's immediately like, well, what did you do?
She's like, nothing. She just wants me to have an outlet or something.
And she's like, an outlet for what? And then Sid takes this moment to be really vulnerable. And she's like, well, sometimes it feels like the people I love don't love me back.
And then her mom replies, well, maybe you're aiming too high, hun.
Which is just fucking wild, dude. I get it. They're all going through a tough time. One of the keystone members of their family just died. But the fuck?
Her daughter's not even necessarily talking about a crush or anything. Her daughter is actively looking at her while Maggie, her mother, is too busy staring at the television, zones the fuck out. And when she says that, her daughter looks crushed because you can, love isn't just romantic.
Yep.
And her mother basically just said, fuck off.
So she does. She goes to her room, and while she's heading to her room, she's thinking to herself, narrating to us about how her mom is such a bitch and how her dad would have understood, but he's not here anymore. And she has this panic attack, overflow of emotion while rocking against the wall. And she mentions how she feels like her emotions are just gonna boil over. And then the wall behind her just fucking full on splits open, cracks 4 feet up the wall.
Yep.
And she says to herself, maybe I'm way more fucked up than I thought. And that's the end of episode 1.
Episode 1. done. So, what are your thoughts on I Am Not Okay With This? Episode 1, Dear Diary.
Sydney's actress is very good, like, very good, but specifically the scene where she tells her mom that she feels like the people she loves don't love her back. Like, that scene, very powerful, very well acted. But overall, this episode, it feels like it's a bit of a slog, like, not to watch. It just feels like for a 19-minute episode, this episode feels like it's like 35 to 40 minutes.
I can see that.
Not a bad thing, though.
No, it's perfectly fine. Like, it flows well. It just feels a bit slow.
I have often been known to use the term slog, or that an episode seems to drag, as an insult, as a way to say a show has bad pacing. That is not the case here. Somehow this show takes 19 minutes, makes it feel like 35, but at the same time, it feels like it needs 35. So it doesn't feel bad that it took that long, because it uses the 19 minutes so very constructively and packs so many different scenes into its runtime that even though it is a shorter runtime than most shows get, it still manages to like feel like a fleshed out TV show. The amount of world building and setting the show manages to fit into this 19 minutes is insanely impressive, and because of that alone, I would watch more. I don't even need like any other aspects to drag me in to watch more. The way this show is produced and directed is enough to make me want to watch more of it, because that alone is so insanely impressive to me. But also the show is good, and I like the actors and actresses and would be interested in watching more.
Makes sense. There are 5 more episodes you can watch after you finish.
And also I like
the next one.
I like Stanley. I've got to the point where Manic Pixie Dream Girls bounce off of me, but like Manic Pixie Dream Guys don't exist enough.
Okay, I get you.
So, like, they don't bounce off me the same way.
I can see that.
I'm sorry. I'm susceptible to some things in life.
I'll accept your reasoning. It's perfectly fine. I also agree that the show is good and that its pacing, just by making it feel slower, doesn't really actually make it feel like it's slower. It's just that they've managed to get so much across in the short time that it feels longer, and it's really well done. And I would also watch more of this. Also, yes, I also enjoy Stanley.
See, I'm not the only one. Episode 2 is The Master of One F star star K.
The Master of One Fuck.
No, the title is The Master of One F star star K.
Yep.
F star star K.
Yep. And we start once again with seeing Sydney walking down the same street, same outfit.
No, she's running down the street, same outfit, covered in blood.
Oh, no.
And there are police sirens in the background now.
You're right. Because I was saying that she started off walking and then briefly moved to that.
No, it starts off with her running on this one.
It's fine. That's the start of the episode.
Then we cut to sit in her room, staring at the giant crack in her wall.
And she does the normal person thing and avoids the problem by just covering up, by pushing the dresser in front of it.
Except this doesn't work because the crack goes higher than the dresser.
The crack goes from the very bottom of the floorboard all the way to the ceiling.
No, not to the ceiling. It's like 4.5 feet up.
I thought it went all the way to the ceiling.
No.
It's a bit short of the ceilings. It's still taller than the dresser.
So, and the crack on the floor is about 2.5, 3 feet wide. And by the time it gets to the top of the dresser, it's probably only about 6 inches wide still before it narrows off to a peak and stops.
But still.
It's still so very obvious.
Yep. Also, more than just weird, it's not like it cracked plaster. That's another wood panel wall there, and it cracked the wood paneling, but didn't strip it or split it. It's cracked wood paneling, which makes no sense.
Also, there's no, like, plaster debris on the ground.
Exactly.
So, like, it just vanished. She, like, not only...
Or it cracked so perfectly that there was no microparticles.
Yes, that's fair, too. But she is narrating to herself here that she'd almost convinced herself that she caused this crack to form in her wall. But
it's a shitty old house. Bad foundation. It's fine.
Yeah. So, she's out in the kitchen, fixing breakfast for herself, which consists of 2 slices of toast.
Yep.
And Liam is playing with his pet hedgehog. And he's like...
Banana.
What? Banana?
Banana, I believe.
Yeah. And Liam goes, do you think Banana knows he's a hedgehog?
Do you think he's happy he's a hedgehog?
And Sydney, like, gives a, like, kind of flippant response. I don't exactly remember what she said.
She's basically like, he's happy to be a hedgehog, and if he did know, he'd know he's a well-taken care of hedgehog or some shit like that.
And she just kind of stares at the toaster.
General platitudes.
And Liam's like, Mom says if you stare at the toaster, it'll never pop. And Sydney goes, well, I have special powers.
I can control things with my mind. That's what Mom doesn't know.
And Liam goes, oh, wow, can I see? And she stares at the toaster and, like, is thinking about making it pop.
And then it pops, but rather violently.
Toast goes flying.
Then Sydney in her voiceover goes, whoa. And then Liam goes, whoa. And then her mom shows up.
Yeah, and she's like, after school you have to do the grocery shopping. We're almost out of, like, everything. And also, is that the same sweater you wore yesterday?
And Sydney's like, yep, because I'm disgusting.
Also
and
because...
what am I supposed to do to get the groceries home?
Yeah, also because I don't think your mother understands wearing the same sweater multiple days in a row is not disgusting as long as you're wearing an undershirt underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Sweaters are overclothing and they can be worn multiple times without having to change them.
Yeah, as long as, you didn't sweat horribly in it or it didn't get stained or something like.
Yeah, these are clothing rules that exist. I'm not making this shit up. People are aware of this. It's like you can wear the same jeans multiple times a week. In fact, you're supposed to. You're only supposed to wash jeans like once every 3 months or some shit.
Well, not modern jeans.
Okay, but you're still only supposed to wash modern jeans like once every couple weeks. You're not supposed to wash them every day.
It really depends on the brand. A lot of jeans are now more, you do need to wash them more often because they've started making them of cheaper and cheaper materials that do need to be washed more. Whereas if we are talking about older jeans, yeah, you wash them rather occasionally because they were straight up work clothes. Like, they were made to maintain through fucking anything.
Yeah, like, but jeans and sweaters and jackets, you don't have to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, she's like, how am I supposed to get the groceries home?
And her mom goes the same way you did last time. So it's like, okay, so in exchange for sexual favors from strangers.
Yep. And her mom's like, stop being a smartass. Change your sweater. You're making me look like a bad mom.
And I'm a good mom.
She's not a good mom. I've seen her on screen for like probably 6 minutes total. She is not a good mom.
I wouldn't say she's a bad mom, but she's not a good mom either.
She's a bad mom. She's a bad parent.
Yeah, rather recent. At least recently. I can't speak of obviously her entire
as soon as your teenager comes to you and says,
I feel like people don't love me. It's like, yeah, you're right. I kind of already forgot about that scene. You're right. She is a bad mom.
Like, that scene alone makes her a bad parent.
Yeah.
Like, and sure, she's just got off work. She's drinking.
But that's
like,
not.
She's probably mentally fried, but like, at the same time, when you become a parent, that's a decision you have made, and you don't get to just be mentally fried and unresponsive to your child's emotional plights, which is what that is.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, she's a bad mom. So on the way to school, apparently she walks to school back every day.
Yes.
Or she was riding the bus in the first episode.
She might walk to a bus stop that's farther away.
So on the way walking to the bus stop,
because she seems to live on the other side of a river from the school.
Stan stops and he's driving like an old clunker of a car.
Yep.
And it takes him a solid minute to roll down the window,
which we do not cut from. We do not cut from this. Of her standing there awkwardly in the middle of the road.
The best part is he had it rolled down far enough, like just an inch, so he could like drive up and say, "Hey, Sydney," and she's like, "Hey, Stan," and then we have to wait for the window to roll down all the way before like the conversation continues.
Not all the way. It's like halfway, and the conversation continues.
Yeah,
and I think we get to halfway because it sounds like it comes to a stop and does not go down farther.
So then he kind of offers her a ride. He never says it. He just kind of gestures to the passenger seat with his head
like 3 times, and then eventually we see them driving to school.
Which means, why did we have to wait for the window to roll down? Why is this a thing that happened?
Shh.
But, so yeah, she gets to school. We jump scenes to, like, after gym class.
Where she is talking to Dina, trying to see if Dina can give her a ride after school to just go grocery shopping.
And Dina's like, I would, but I promised Brad I'd go to the pep rally. And Sydney's like,
why would you go to that?
Pep rallies are for people who have, like,
pep.
And she's like, yeah, but it's a really important game. And Sydney's like, wait, you're going to the game too?
Yeah.
And like, the thing is, Sydney isn't confused because she's going to the game or she's going to the pep rally for Brad. She's confused that she's going to the pep rally and game because before she started dating Brad, these are things they would have never done.
Yeah, these are things she did not do beforehand.
So it's an entire change in the things she does and her personality because the way she's defending the pep rally and the game and stuff is not something that she would have done previously.
And then she puts on Brad's Letterman jacket, and that's basically the end of the scene.
Well, no, Dina's disgusted by the Letterman jacket. And
Sid's disgusted by it.
And Dina's like, what? He's never let anybody have his Letterman jacket before.
It's sweet.
And then that's the end of the scene. We cut to Sydney walking along some railroad tracks next to the river, next to a bunch of abandoned buildings.
Yep.
And she's just throwing rocks.
Yeah. As one does, I guess.
And while she is venting.
About how Dina's a bitch for...
Although, I say venting, but from personal experience, focusing on things that have me upset don't help me vent. They just, like, reinforce the anger.
That is generally true.
Like, venting only works because you have another person to, like, give you their their input, their outlook on a situation.
Yeah, no, the idea here wouldn't necessarily be that she's venting because, again, the voiceover is assumedly written in the diary. This would be her immediate reaction after school to what Dina's done. And then the voiceover would be later at some undisclosed point when she's writing the book, which would then actually be venting.
And, like, she's venting about Dina and Brad being, like, a couple from the 50s, which I have to interrupt because we haven't mentioned it because it has no bearing on the actual story of the show. But Dina's black. Mm-hmm. They are not like a couple from the 50s. They wouldn't have gone to the same school in the 50s. He wouldn't have been caught dead dating a black girl in the 50s.
I mean, he may have been caught dead.
More likely she would have been caught dead.
Yeah.
For
bad jokes. Anyways, though, she's venting, calling Dina a bitch for ditching her. And she's like, look, she didn't technically ditch you. Yeah, it sucks, but she never agreed.
Yeah, and so while she's throwing rocks, she throws one at this old railroad crossing sign, and it hits the sign, and the sign, and the post.
Fucking Floy.
Yeah, like, it'd be one thing if it was just the sign, like, you could blame it on, like,
a bad
decrepit
bolts or whatever.
But it pulls the entire pole up, too, and like, goes tumbling head over head. So we come from that to the bowling alley, where she went because Stan apparently works there. And
she does stand shocked for a moment, and then we cut to her running into the bowling alley to get Stan.
And Stan says, I can't. My dad doesn't even know I drive the car. He'd be pissed if I let somebody else.
Yeah, because when And she asks for it. He's like, no. And then she kind of insists, and he's like, do you even have a license?
And she's like, yes.
Like, let me see it.
And then she gets huffy and gets ready to walk away because she doesn't have a license.
Yeah. And he follows. He's like, wait. I got this. It's fine. I'll drive.
And then he yells to his manager or boss that he's taking 20 minutes. But the best part is his manager or boss is this old lady who looks like she's asleep. Like,
she's definitely sleeping.
He's like, I'm going to take 20 minutes. I'll be back. No response. She's just sleeping on a chair in the corner.
Also, I'm going to go with probably more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely more than 20 minutes. So they're in his car driving, and he points to a tower over by one of the two bridges that we see in this town, which I assume one bridge is for cars and the other is for the train.
Yes, the other one looks like it's for the train.
Yeah. And he's like, back in the 1890s when they built that, 100 men died building it.
And she's like, there's no fucking way 100 men died building that shitty thing.
Well, maybe it was more like 5, but one of them was my great-great-grandfather.
Wasn't that great, though? Turns out all of the barber men have been pretty fucking shitty.
It's my job to redeem the name. And she's like, well, I've never seen your dad around. He's like, yeah, he drives 18-wheeler 25 days out of the month.
But honestly, my life's better when he's not around. I kind of wish he would never come back. He's like, oh, wait, shit,
her dad died.
Fuck.
Like, I had to rewind a second here. He's like, she says something about that. She's like, I just wish my dad was here.
Yeah, and her voiceover, not out loud.
Yeah, but like, I had to rewind. I was like, was that out loud? Or, because like, the way he immediately reacts to it feels like it wasn't.
Yeah. Which
may just be more manifestation of her psychic powers, or Stan actually has a good reading on people, situational awareness.
Yeah. Anyway, though, she's like, it doesn't matter. And kind of just chill out from there, like, with that conversation. And we see them driving, and he stops.
He stops the car at an automotive place, saying he needs to drop something off real quick. Gets out and walks up to one of the mechanics at the automotive place, hands him something. The guy hands him something. The mechanic puts the thing that Stan handed him in his shirt pocket. Stan jogs back to the car, gets in, and Sydney's like,
what are you, a drug dealer?
He goes, I have clients, thank you.
And she's like, wait, what, really?
And he goes, 4, but one of them's my cousin.
Yeah. And then they get to the store, and we see them shopping. She's doing a whole voiceover this entire time, but we hear, like, brief conversation.
Yeah.
Where he's making, like, a few jokes here and there, and her voiceover's just like, I guess there's more to Stanley than I thought. He's actually fun to be around. He's funny. Well, he's not that funny, but he's kind of funny.
He's still weird, though.
Yeah, he's weird, but he's nice.
So they're at the cash register checking out. The total is $67 and change, almost $68. And she's like, shit. In her monologue, she's like, shit.
Mom only gave me $50.
Mm-hmm. So she asks the cashier to re-ring everything up because she thinks she's being overcharged. Yeah. Cashier's like, nah, it's going to come out the same.
It's going to come out the same, hun. Instead, just like, do you want me to spot you? It's fine.
And it was just wild because he's offering to spot the full $70 here. Like, he doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know how much he has.
Yeah. But she's like, no, it's okay. And she takes the baskets and goes to start putting stuff back.
She says, I'll put everything back, which is not the correct action. You put back like $18 worth of stuff.
Yeah, like, but to be fair, yeah, you're right.
To be more accurate, in my opinion, obviously, if you know you have a very strict budget of $50, you don't end up at the cash register with more than $50. You've done the math as you've gone.
Yeah, because you have a cell phone, which has a calculator.
Where you have a calculator, and you've literally done math.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, she puts like syrup with some drinks and milk back, and she's panicking the entire time, thinking about
hyperventilating.
Yeah, we see her mom in like a little flashback to the cash register. She seems to be very upset by this like kind of social faux pas. That's not really a social faux pas. You should never feel bad about something like this. Their job is to sell shit to you. Sometimes you don't have the right money.
So she puts the last thing up in the refrigerating like wall.
Yes.
The refrigeration wall. And it seems like based on what we've seen so far in the show that she's gonna shatter this glass wall or something.
Yeah, or like all the racks are gonna break down, fall, we're gonna see a bunch of liquid splash up because that's a cool effect that things do sometimes.
Yeah, so it kind of baits us here, but she shuts the fridge door, turns around, and it feels like everything's okay for a second. She's not hyperventilating anymore.
She breathes out, a nice deep breath out.
And then everything in the aisle in front of her just flies off the shelves.
Into the middle of the aisle.
Yeah.
Which I assume, honestly, one, it's a good fake out, but also part of the reason is budgetary. Like, it costs a lot more to drop all of the racks in the refrigeration unit down and have liquids fly up, right? A lot less to kind of just have everything fly off a shelf.
It would have been really cheap, though, to like just have all the glass break out of the fridges.
Well, yeah, but it's also even cheaper to have all the stuff fall out because you can use a lot of basic shit.
I was just thinking like the CG effect for the glass like would be really easy to do. But yeah, it's probably a budgetary constraint. Like you said, this show probably could have just been an audio drama and it would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But Stan comes around the corner, looks down the aisle, which has everything on the floor, and he's like, Sid, and then she turns and runs off. Yep. I do have a minute of commentary. This was 2020 before we entered our record world of inflation that we're in now. Could you imagine how much her $68 in groceries would have been now? It was like 2 baskets of groceries. Like,
yeah, it's I'm gonna say about 100.
It's so ridiculous.
About $30 more probably.
So we see Sydney sitting on on concrete in front of a painting. Mm-hmm. One of those type of paintings that you know if you've been to a small town town in America. A lot of them are from the Federal Arts Project that FDR did. They haven't been upkept, so they kind of look shitty now.
They're kind of bland and generic. Almost every small town has what seems like the same one, but they put the name of the town over it.
Yeah, so now we know the town is now we know the town's named Brownsville.
Yeah. And maybe there's like one distinctive feature on it that was like, this is our claim to fame, so we put it in the art.
Yeah.
They look fine. It's just they're overly generic at this point, and they're never well upkept.
You know this if you've lived in a small town or driven through a small town America. You've seen these. They're everywhere in small town America.
Or, if you were born in a small town.
We'll die in a small town?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, like you said, Stan comes up, and Sydney is sitting with her head in her hands, like...
upset, and Stan's just like, panic attack? Like, that sucks. Like, it sucks that you have those. My mom used to get those all the time. It really, really sucks.
Well, she probably still does, but...
Yeah. And then Sid's just like, why are you still talking to me? He's like, because you're, like, the most interesting person in this shitty fucking town?
No, he basically says because everybody else is boring.
Yeah.
Well, let's not cross the wires. He's not, like, straight up, like, flirting. He's just being like, nah, because...
Yeah, I didn't remember the exact line. I knew the sentiment there, though.
Yeah. So he pulls out a cigarette case, like one of those metal old cigarette cases, and it's just filled with joints.
Mm-hmm.
Like enough joints that is probably a felony.
Definitely felony.
He's got a felony marijuana trafficking charge coming his way.
Yeah, but that's probably gonna happen anyways. He's actively dropping shit off.
That's fair. So he pulls out one of his marijuana cigarettes.
Yes.
I love that term. It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm. And he offers it to her, and he's like, do you want to smoke? And she's like, I've never smoked before. He's like, you want me to go first so you know what the fuck you're doing?
So they share the joint, and she's like, I didn't even cough. Which, I'm calling bullshit. If this is her first time smoking anything, she coughed.
She psychically stopped herself from coughing.
Also, you mentioned a very funny thing that I had to go back and check.
The thing that happens all the time in shows and movies. Anytime someone's smoking anything, which is oftentimes, especially nowadays, your actors, smartly, don't like to smoke. It's not good for you.
Yeah, makes
Inhalation
sense.
of smoke is not good, especially if you're going to have to do multiple takes.
Mm-hmm.
So now, a lot of times, it's just, well, we're just going to edit around that. Like, sure, here's you breathing in. Most of the time, your smoke, a lot of the time, it's just edited in. It's a super easy CG effect.
Yeah, a lot of the time they use, like, electric, props.
They use an electric prop that might have a water vapor coming off the end of it, depending on what it is. Mm-hmm. Or it's just CG added in because it's not that hard. Mm-hmm. But you hardly ever see someone breathe out smoke because they never held anything. So we cut camera when it logically makes sense for them to breathe, and we cut back and forth, which we do here.
I didn't catch that, but yeah. So she and Stan drive around for a bit, and she gives us some narration. She says that her eyes felt heavy and her mind felt empty.
Yes. We also either learned here or earlier that her dad also smoked because she recognizes the smell in Stan's car.
Yeah. She mentions how she would always ask her dad why his truck smelled like skunk. And he'd give her an excuse, but now she realizes he was just a pothead. Yeah. Well, she says stoner. That's right. But she also mentions that, like, she no longer has, like, any worries. She's not worried about the groceries or her friend leaving her or her mom.
Or any of that. She's fine.
Or the feeling like she's going crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then Stan looks over and he's like, you want to go to the game?
And she says, definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the game.
Yeah. And she's like, I can't believe you like coming to these. And he's like, it's not because I like the sport, right? I come here because it's like live theater. It's like Hamlet. You know how it's going to end before it starts.
Before the lights come up.
But you still watch it for the ending. And he goes on a diatribe about how, like, this is the peak of their lives. Like, because he's a manic pixie dream guy.
Yeah. The people here on the field and in the stands, they're the people who are going to come back for the 5-year, 10-year, 20-year reunion. Because this is the best to get. Like, what's the best Bradley Lewis can look forward to? Maybe being a middle manager at, like, an insurance company where if he's lucky, he's in charge of employee of the month.
Yeah.
And in her head, she's just like, man, Stan's fun. I like him. And then she takes the sunglasses, puts them on, and then coincidentally, when we can't see her focusing on anything, Brad gets hurt in a tackle.
And specifically, she's thinking to herself here before Brad gets hurt, I was trying to, like, find a boyfriend or something just to keep up with Dina, and maybe I don't have to try it. Maybe I actually just like Stan for Stan.
Yeah, maybe I can just like Stan.
And then Brad gets hurt in a tackle. He has to be, like, helped off the field.
Yep. We see Dina on the field with the team.
Yeah, which is weird.
Which is, like,
weird. It's
weird because she's never gone into things before. It's not like she's a manager or anything. She's definitely not a cheerleader. She's just down there in his Letterman jacket.
Yep. Well, didn't you know Letterman jackets get you field access?
Oh, they like high-vis vests in most other places.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Anyways, they go back to Stan's place. His bedroom is the entire basement.
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of comics, records,
and VHS tapes. She's like, VHS? He goes, it's the best format.
She's like, no, it's fucking not. It's like, okay, not quality-wise, but like feel. Like
the shittiness is part of the experience.
Yeah.
And I get where he's coming from.
I vaguely really get it, yes.
But he's just being a fucking hipster.
He's being a manic pixie dream girl.
This is the argument that vinyl is better than digital, except you have no backup to your argument.
Yeah.
Like, vinyl was, for several years, decades even, better than digital.
Yeah.
There's an argument there are better digital formats than vinyl now. But vinyl people had, like, support behind their argument. He has nothing.
Vinyl saw, like, 8-track and cassette come and die.
He just has nostalgia on his side.
Nostalgia that he's never experienced.
Yeah, he's like 17 and it's 2020, so he was born in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
The towers fell before he was born. He doesn't know VHS.
No, that tower's still standing. His great-great-great-great-grandfather helped build it.
But he's like, I just can never get into laser discs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate him now. Like, in this moment, I hated him with every piece of fiery passion I could. But he'll bring me back here in a second when he talks about jellyfish.
Yeah, so... They're both just kind of standing there awkwardly, and then Sid goes, "You want to smoke again?" So they smoke again, and as they smoke, we cut to them, and they're now laying on the carpet with a mostly burned joint, which is still smoking, but we never see them take another hit of, even despite the fact that there's a bunch left.
Yep.
Because, of course, they don't actually smoke. And they're playing a game of Would You Rather.
Yes. And the first Would You Rather question is from Stan to Sydney. Would you rather be an eagle or a jellyfish?
And she says, no question. Easy. An eagle.
And you know, she's wrong. Not that she chose an eagle. Eagle's a fine pick here. I mean, they're basically giant seagulls, but fine, it can fly. Like, it's a fine pick. It's not
its lifespan is so short. Jellyfishes, baby.
Some jellyfish species are literally immortal.
Yeah, you make me choose between, like, specific breeds of the species, so I'm going immortal jellyfish.
More importantly, what's a jellyfish gotta worry about?
Right.
It just floats there.
Also, most of their food intake's passive.
Yeah, it just floats there and exists in warm water that is almost... It basically exists in a sense depth chamber, which, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
And so then she asks her question, which is, what superpower would you like to have?
No, her first question is superpowers, or he goes, there's nobody that's not choosing superpowers. It doesn't matter what the other thing is. And she's like, fine, what superpowers would you have? He goes, I want the power to transform.
I want to be a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
But not to, like, be creepy and, like, sneak into the girl's locker room or anything. I just want to be able to change into a giant jellyfish. And she's just like, what is with you in jellyfish?
And he's like, well, I read in this article that when the world ends, it won't be cockroaches that, like, survive and take the place of humans.
Because the world's, like, 70% water.
She's like, so we're going to be the planet of the jelly? He's like, yeah.
And I'll be their leader, leading them in the war against the cockroaches.
That'd
be great.
I don't think jellyfish would care about fighting cockroaches.
I mean, apparently if he's smart enough and can lead them, he could make them, like, initialize them to a fight against cockroaches, who knows. And she just vibes with the answer, because that's what you do when you're that high.
And then they kind of argue about whose turn it is. He goes to ask her if she'd rather tell him her deepest secret or something else, and she goes...
Doesn't even get to... Or she quickly sits up and is like, okay. And he struggles to sit up, as one does with fast motion when they're high sometimes.
Yep. And so she tells him her deepest secret, which the way she, like, drags it out, and she's like, you can't tell anyone.
And in her voiceover, before she says anything out loud, she's like, it's fine, you can just tell him, it's good, just tell him about it.
And it kind of feels like she's gonna, like, confide in him that she thinks she's going crazy because she thinks she's making things happen.
Like she has superpowers.
But she's just like, I have acne on my thighs.
And he just starts laughing. He's like,
that's
it?
She's like, it's gross. It's so gross, though. And he's like,
I got you beat. Turns around, pulls off his shirt, and he is back knee.
And he's like, it goes all the way down into my ass crack.
Between the cheeks.
And she's like, that's disgusting.
He's like, yeah, you can't beat me. I got you beat.
So she stands up and pulls her pants down to show him the thigh acne.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, you're right. That is gross. You win.
That's disgusting. You win. Well, he says it very facetiously.
Yeah. He then kisses her and immediately backs off. He's like, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. My bad. And then she, like, forcibly grabs him, pulls him in, and kisses him again as they fall off screen.
Yep.
And then the credits roll. That's the end of episode 2. Justice, episode 2, thoughts?
I like Stanley.
He's such a facetious prick, though. VHS, really, Stanley?
He is quite a pretentious asshole. However, he's alright other than that.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
And at least he acknowledges it's not actually a quality thing, it's his own weird personal preference.
Yeah, fair enough. This episode doesn't have the, like, timing pool of episode 1, which I don't know if that's an issue or not. This episode, despite actually technically being longer than episode 1...
by a minute.
Feels shorter, which is just a flow thing, so that's good.
It's a fun flow thing when you take into account, like, a quarter of it, most of the characters were sitting in a single location, by which I mean a car.
Yeah. But yeah, I like this episode. I think it's got good vibes. I would watch more.
Agreed.
The show is good. I would watch more. I don't have a lot more to say about it. Yeah.
I mean, I have a thing, not necessarily to say about this, but I have a question.
Okay.
Would you rather be a jellyfish or an eagle?
See, this is tough, and I think I discussed this a little bit in the actual show review, but eagles come with the freedom of flight, but they also only live like 20-something years typically. That's if they don't starve to death or get killed or various other things that can happen to birds. Jellyfish, though, some species of jellyfish are immortal, and other species of jellyfish aren't even actually singular organisms. They're hive minds made up of like armies of tiny little cells. I'm looking at you.
Manowar is what you're thinking about.
Yeah, the manowar, which isn't even technically a jellyfish, but it's called a jellyfish.
Yes.
So, like, the question here is, do I want functional immortality and a forever deprivation tank?
And to be one of the vibiest creatures in all of nature?
Or do I want to be a murderous flying killing machine?
But, like, a dumb one.
Yeah, a dumb one. That's fair.
I mean, obviously, you still have your humans. Like, I'm saying eagles are dumb.
I think I would go insane if I was a jellyfish. Like, the first 2 years, fucking vibe. Year 3 and 4, I think I'd probably start dipping into insanity. I think I have to choose eagle just because I think I could, like, stay sane as an eagle. Yeah, eagle.
Gross.
If it was only for a year, I would take jellyfish. If it was only for a year, I'd take jellyfish so hard. But I think I would go insane.
I arguably think I would go insane if I was trapped in any animal body, so I'm gonna go with the jellyfish, because at least I can explore the oceans.
But yeah.
And also because it's only functional immortality, if I really, really get tired of it, I can cast myself into a volcanic vent.
You don't have to do that. You can just wash up on shore somewhere.
That sounds much worse, and not nearly as metal.
Actually, I don't think you would cast yourself into a volcanic vent. Jellyfish can't really sink.
They're very buoyant, I'm aware.
You'd have to cast yourself on shore somewhere.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's not a beach where there's a kid with a stick. But if you do pick a beach with a kid with a stick, also make sure Senator Kelly is right offshore.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Anyways, I think that's it for this show, which again is Netflix's
I Am Not Okay With This.
A short 7-episode series that you can find on Netflix to watch right now. We're not sponsored by Netflix, but Netflix, if you're out there, you could sponsor us.
You could.
We watch so many shows on your service. Anyways, if you want to reach out to us and let us know if you would rather be an eagle or a jellyfish, you can do that in so many ways. There are so many options.
You can do that by sending us a tweet or a toot. You can tweet us at Twitter, though Twitter's disgusting. Preferably, toots are Mastodon. We're not Mastodon. What is Hive's thing?
I've already told you what they are. They're bumbles.
Yeah. You could bumble us. You know you want to bumble us.
I don't think they have an official term, but that it's just adorable.
Or I guess like sting would also work.
Or buzz us.
Yeah.
You could buzz us over on...
We'll go with buzz. You can buzz us over on Hive.
At Copilots Review.
Yes.
You could tweet us at Twitter at Copilots Review if you're still on Musk's ever-declining platform.
You could email us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
Or you could find the links to all of those, except our Hive, which we need to update, on our website at copilotsreview.simplecast.com, which has links to our Discord, our Twitter, our YouTube, our Patreon, and our Hive by the time this goes live. Yeah, so eagles or jellyfish. You have limited options on what you can choose to be, but an almost unlimited option of ways to contact us. I think there's actually like 8 options, so not really unlimited. But more options than eagle or jellyfish. See you on the next flight.
Please fly again soon.